Welcome everyone to tonight's council meeting. I'm the Mayor, Councillor Ranka Rasik. I declare this meeting open at 7:04. I would like to welcome the members of the public who have joined us in this chamber tonight. I would also like to welcome Ms. Janet Daw and Ms. Penelope Holloway, who have been appointed as municipal monitors for Brimbank City Council. Members of the public attending council and committee meeting are expected to behave respectfully at all times and not permitted to engage with the councillors or council officers during the course of the meeting. This includes directing loud and inappropriate comments towards councillors and officers or making noise that impact council ability to conduct its meeting. All persons present tonight have a right to be safe and treated with respect. Council will not tolerate any behaviour that threatens the safety of anyone present in the chamber or which disrupts the ability for Council to conduct its business on behalf of the community. You will be asked to leave the meeting if your behaviour is inappropriate, disruptive or rude. Due to ongoing disruptive experiences at council meetings, all members of the gallery are required to pre-register their attendance at council meetings to support continuous efforts to maintain a safe and secure environment for all participants, whilst allowing councillors to conduct an ordinary meeting. In the unlikely event of emergency, please follow the directions of the council staff and the emergency procedures on the wall near the door. I would like to note I have given approval to Channel 31 to live stream this meeting. A recording of the meeting will be published on Council's website. We're going to go to item 1. Opening, including acknowledgement of country. Please stand for acknowledgement of country. Sorry. On behalf of Brimbank City Council, I respectfully acknowledge and recognise the Wurundjeri and Bunurong peoples as traditional custodians of this land and pay respect to their elders past, present and emerging. We're going to go to item 2. I ask councillors to remain standing for the council commitment. Others may be seated. As the council, we will act in the best interest of the Brimbank community and consider the immediate and long-term impacts of our decisions. We will make these decisions fairly and without bias. We will uphold all of our obligations under the laws of Victoria and Council's local laws and will act in accordance with our code of conduct. Councillors, please be seated. I'm going to go to item 3, apologies. There is one apology for this meeting from Councillor Victoria Borg. There is one leave of absence request for this meeting. May I have a mover of a motion to approve the request? Councillor Takos.
I move a motion as per business papers.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder? Councillor David. All in favour, please raise your hands. Thank you. Carried. We're going to go to item 4, disclosure of conflict of interest. Are there any declarations of conflict of interest for tonight's meeting? Yes, Councillor Riley.
I'd like to declare conflicts of interest for items 12.5 and 12.9.
12.5 and 12.9. Thank you. Thank you. Anyone else, councillors? We're going to alter our businesses tonight. May I have a mover of a motion to alter order of business of tonight's meeting? Notice of motion 13.5, ceasefire in Gaza immediate before item 11, minutes reports of delegated committees. Councillor Papalia.
I move the motion as per shared screen. Thank you.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Lancashire. Thank you. We put motion to vote. All in favour, please raise your hands. 1, 2, 3. And against? It's carried. Designation of items as confidential. May I have a move of a motion to designate items as confidential? Councillor Papalia.
Move the motion as per shared screen.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder? Councillor David. Thank you. All in favour, please raise your hands. Against? Carried. Confirmation of minutes of previous meeting. May I have a move of motion to confirm the minutes of the previous meeting? Councillor Papalia.
I move the motion as per shared screen.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder? Councillor O'Reilly.
I'd like to second the motion as per the shared
Thank you.
screen.
All in favour, please raise your hands. Carried. We're going to go to item 7, condolences. There is one item of condolences this evening, 7.1, passing of Zulkarnain Haider. May I have a mover of the motion of this item? Councillor Brenton.
I move the motion as per business papers.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Nguyen.
I would like to second.
Thank you. Would any councillor like to speak to this motion? Or perhaps against? No? All in favour, please raise your hands. It's carried. We're going to go to item 8, congratulations. There are 2 items of congratulations. 8.1, support during festival season. May I have a mover of the motion for this item? Councillor Tarkos.
I move the motion as per business papers.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Riley.
I'd like to move the motion as per the shared screen.
Seconded, yeah.
Seconded, sorry.
Thank you, that's fine. Councillor Tarkos, would you like to speak to this motion?
Yeah, I'd just like to congratulate everyone that was involved in, a whole suite of festivals, in particular over the Christmas break, and also to make a special mention of Saintside, of which I recently attended with over 1,000 members. Our festivals are definitely our community's highlight, and all the hard work put by the council staff that attend these festivals, and also the volunteers that help on the day. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Riley, would you like to speak to this motion?
No, Madam Mayor, I think Councillor Tarchos summed it up.
Thank you. Councillors, anyone else would like to speak to this motion? If not, I put this motion to vote. All in favour, please raise your hands. It's carried. We're going to go to item 8.2, beautification of Linear Park, Taylor's Lakes. May I have a mover of this motion for this item? Councillor Tarkos.
I move the motion as per business papers.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Lancashire.
Thank you. Madam Mayor, second the motion.
Thank you. Councillor Tarkos, would you like to speak to this motion?
Thank you. It was brought to my attention that 2 residents, Neil and Deb, they wish to withhold their surname from Taylor's Lakes, who for the last 5 years have been collecting rubbish around Linear Park. We all know Linear Park is one of the favourite destinations of parks for many people, and they've been doing this in the lake and the surrounding streets. They told me that they love attending Linear Park and are doing it for everyone's enjoyment, but primarily to protect the diverse and native wildlife and bird life who share that as habitats, and they would like to keep them safe and the amenity clean. So a big thank you to Neil and Deb.
Thank you. Councillor Lancashire, would you like to speak to this motion?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just to reiterate what Councillor Tarkos has said, this is a beautiful area of Brimbank. Wasn't always so. Council's done a lot of work on fixing that area up, including the bridging and circulatory system and exercise stations and things like that. And to have the community making this sort of effort on top of that investment is very good. So again, congratulations to Neil and Deb for their work. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillors, would anyone else like to speak to this motion? If not, I put motion to vote. All in favour, please raise your hands. It's carried. We're going to go to item 9, public question time. Mr. Billava, I understand we have received questions from members of the public.
Yes, Madam Mayor, we've received quite a number of questions, so please note that due to the large amount of questions received, only the questions will be read out without the preamble where applicable. Our first question is from King Cullen. What is the Council doing to ensure the safety of residents and visitors to Carnley Shopping Centre and other shopping centres in Brimbank other than just leaving it to the police?
Council's youth service offer a wide range of free and accessible activities for young people to participate in addition to safe space for them to gather. Council is working alongside with Victoria Police and other partners throughout the Brimbank Safety and Wellbeing Partnership, the Hotspot Working Group and Brimbank Shopping Centres networks to address safety in shopping centres. We are also working with schools, Victoria Police and Crime Stoppers on programs to proactively address knife crime. For further information about these initiatives and more, please contact our customer service centre and visit the youth service website www.brimbankyouth.com. Council would like to note that community members should report any personal safety concerns or incidents to Victoria Police.
Kim Cullen has also asked another question that relates to personnel matter. As such, this question is disallowed in accordance with 5511 of Council's governance rules. So we'll move on to the next question from Diane Capelli, who asks, can Council please confirm how much money was allocated by Mayor Rasic to the Fix the Calder campaign and what benefits has it achieved?
Council's Fix the Calder campaign was launched in April 2021 and a total amount of $16,500 was expended directly on this campaign. Following the launch of the campaign, the Victorian federal government's committed $50 million each of funding to upgrade the freeway. Works to remove the level crossing at Calder Park Drive commenced and are expected to be completed next year. And a business case for a new diamond interchange at Calder Park Drive over the Calder Freeway has been completed. Unfortunately, the Calder Freeway project was not identified as a priority in last year's review of the infrastructure pipeline by the Australian government, which meant the $50 million funding was withdrawn. However, Fix the Calder remains a priority in Council's new advocacy plan 2023-2025 and advocacy will continue.
Diane Capelli also asks, will Brimbank Council be handing back Sydenham Park to the traditional owners? And is this the reason for the name change?
The proposal to change the name of Sydenham Park was prompted by a notice of motion on 19 of July 2022 to acknowledge the cultural significance of the park to the traditional custodians, the Wurundjeri Woiwurrung people. The responsibility of managing the site will remain the duty of Council. As part of this responsibility, Council will continue to liaise with traditional custodians, community groups and residents of Brimbank in its service delivery.
I'd like to note that the third question from Diane Capelli has been disallowed in accordance with Rule 55.7 of the governance rules, as Ms. Capelli has already asked 2 questions this meeting. Claire Nomdjur has asked, can the minutes of the meetings of the Safety and Wellbeing Partnership from the period December 2022 be to present to be made publicly.
The Council Representatives' report for the Safety and Wellbeing Partnership meetings, which meets quarterly, are tabled in the Governance Report, which is made public in the Council meeting minutes.
Claire also asks, has or will the Justice Socialist Coalition Strategic Implementation Group discussed the impact of the alleged fascist activity at the Legacy Boxing Gym in Sunshine West?
Council is pleased to note that the Legacy Boxing Gym is no longer operating in Sunshine West as their lease was not renewed.
George Exadactylos has asked, the council is opposed to garage door warehouse style doors and roller shutters used in stores for business protection. I have surveyed the business district of Brimbank, and 90% of the business in the street shopping strips use them. I have further taken pictures of these, in particular 22 liquor stores that have these type of protection. Now my 20-year-old son has established a liquor store at an address in Sunshine, and the council is taking action to take him to VCAT. Why is the council so unfair?
Planning permit is required to install roller shutters on commercial properties pursuant to the Brimbank planning scheme, where it has been identified that a site has installed roller shutters without a valid planning permit. Officers provided the landowner and or occupant with their opportunity to apply for a planning permit. If the permit application is refused and the roller shutters are not removed, officers are required to pursue complaint action, one means of which is through VCAT. A number of sites with the roller shutters have recently been reported to council, and officers are working through these to determine whether or not they have the relevant approvals. Where it is identified that they don't, appropriate action will be taken in accordance with the Planning and Environment Act 1987. Our response will be provided directly to Mr. Exekilos.
In relation to his first question, George also asked, has the council forced any business in the Brimbank area to take its roller shutters down? If yes, why not Dan Murphy's on McIntyre Road?
A number of businesses have been required to remove solid roller shutters that were installed without a valid planning permit. Most of those have replaced the solid roller shutters with open type roller shutters. For privacy reasons, council will not disclose details of specific sites that are or have been to subject of compliance action.
Can it be explained? Anya Harrison asks, can it be explained why there is a record overgrown grass, weeds, and lack of efficient maintenance during this summer, leaving our parks inaccessible to ratepayers? In relation, there are two questions from Kelly that I'll also read, given that these are like questions. Given that Kelly's first question is that given that we are able to forecast for growing seasons which affect grasslands, why hasn't council been able to keep up to date with overgrown grass? Kelly's second question is, what preparations has council made to mitigate risks for overgrown grass associated with excessive weather events, and should I be paying my rates if my children can't use parklands that council are paid to maintain?
Council officers have advised council that they have challenges maintaining the usual level of amenities in same areas during December 2023 and January 2024 due to wet and warm weather, which was contrary to expert forecasts and led to growth 3 times the rate of their season. This is not unique to Brimbank and has been experienced in parks and open spaces across the Melbourne. Brimbank Council maintained 10 million square metres of open spaces. All available staff and equipment were allocated to maintain parks and open spaces, but with so much space to manage and the high growth conditions, there was a period where staff struggled to keep up. Additional resources were allocated temporarily to maintain parks, and mowing schedules are now keeping up with demand. As of February 2024, all parks are now being maintained across.
Anya Harrison also asks, can Can there please be given an explanation as to when was the last time the CEO and director drove around to observe our appalling reserves, including trailers with dumped rubbish, and explain where our rates are being spent?
Your rates go towards council services that touch almost every aspect of our lives across a lifetime, from roads, parks, and footpaths to libraries and community services, from waste collection and recycling to event, arts, and culture. A detailed listing on how every thousand of rates revenue collected is spent can be found in our annual budget, which is publicly available on our website at www.brimbank.gov.au. Council and council officers are aware of the significant level of dump rubbish and invest heavily to manage these illegal behaviours. Council proactively manages dumped rubbish and in 2023 received 8,769 requests related to dumping rubbish, clearing 99% of requested within 5 days. Council also visited 58 locations known as Dumped Rubbish Hotspot Weekly. In December 2023 and January 2024, there has been a significant increase in incidents of dumping rubbish, with 757 requests in January alone. Council are attending to those requests as soon as they are able and will continue to focus on maintaining the safety and amenity for the Brimbank community.
Anthony asks, why are there no lighting installed along the stretch of Calder Freeway? In addition to this, where there are lights installed, such as the off-ramp on the Kings Road exit, these lights have been out of order for the 12 months.
Calder Freeway and Kings Road are both declared arterial roads under the care and management of the state government, Department of Transport and Planning. As such, Council does not have any control over the lighting or maintenance of these roads. Any safety concerns should be addressed to DTP at www.wickroads.vic.gov.au or on 13117. Council has advocated to DTP regularly that lighting at the Kings Road ramps. Community members that want to advocate for change are encouraged to do so directly to DTP as the relevant authority.
Jenny Isa asks, when will the planning application be advertised for the Vietnamese Cultural Centre in Sunshine, and what conversations has Council already had with the group?
No decision has been made by Council at this stage. If Council does decide to sell land, one of the conditions of the contract would be the Vietnamese Museum of Australia to seek and obtain a planning permit before the land will be transacted. Advertising of the planning permit, if received, would be undertaken in accordance with the Planning and Environment Act 1987 and the Brimbank Planning Scheme. Council has engaged with the VMA in order to undertake proper due diligence to inform the sale of land process and associated consideration and decisions. A memorandum of understanding was signed by Council following the December Council meeting to formalise these due diligence decisions.
Jenny Isa, second question is, can Council please provide the revenue collected for the Brimbank Leisure Centre against its operating costs since the centre opened, as well as the percentage of users/members who live outside of the Brimbank district?
The Brimbank Aquatic and Wellness Centre opened in September 2022. Since then, facility has recorded revenue of $16,327,703. Operating costs recorded against the facility for the same period are $13,755,830. This excludes corporate costs, depreciation, landscaping, etc. Based on the monthly figures, 71% of members of Brimbank are residents. Council cannot provide an accurate reflection on the number of casual access coming from Brimbank because the transition by the customer does not attract postcode.
Mark has asked, with the huge increase in cost of living and many residents unable to even afford smashed avocado on toast or for breakfast, sorry, what advocacy strategies are you initiating to assist the residents of Brimbank?
Council shares your concern about the current cost of living crisis. The Brimbank Advocacy Plan 2023 and 2025 includes priorities relating to addressing unemployment and housing and homelessness. We have also raised these topics in our funding priorities brochures ahead to the upcoming 2024-2025 federal and state budgets. And as the mayor, I meet with the local MPs on a regular basis to discuss council's priorities. Further information is available in our quarterly updates on the advocacy efforts at council meetings.
Mark Yukov has asked if there has been an investigation in relation to a tract of land that has been illegally graded
Excuse me,
through.
can I just interrupt? We are up to 15 minutes, so councillors will need to extend question time tonight to respond to all of the eligible questions submitted by the public. Can I have a mover of a motion to extend, Councillor Tarkos?
I move a motion to extend question time.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Lancashire?
I second the motion to extend question time.
All in favour, please raise your hands. It's carried. Thank you. Sorry.
Mark Yukov has asked, in relation to a tract of land that has been illegally graded through private properties within the southern section of Solomon Heights, has an investigation been completed? And if so, who has been held responsible and what penalties have been handed out, if any?
Council's investigation revealed that there was a train derailment in August 2022 and that heavy machinery, including cranes, was required to access the railway line to recover the derailed carriages. This activity necessitated the grading of the track. As this was an emergency situation, no penalty was issued.
Despina Javelas has asked, will Brimbank City Council invest in a person that assists our local community members with accessible and inclusion in our municipality?
Brimbank Council has a service navigation officer who provides practical support and assistance to navigate NDIS and aged care environments, working closely with residents and their families to engage support services. The intake number is 92494494.
Despina also asked, does Brimbank City Council have any digital art workshops or creative programs to support young individuals around 18 to 25 years old?
Brimbank City Council supports our creative youth by offering several local programs through our neighbourhood houses and community centres and creative Brimbank programs at St Albans Community Centre. Some of those programs are specifically tailored for individuals aged 18 to 25. More information about our offerings can be located on our website.
John Kerr asked, with the council having monthly meetings, will it consider having a meeting at Keele offices in the next 3 months and at least another meeting in the second half of 2024?
At the present stage, there are no plans for council meetings to be held at the Kilo Community Hub. Unfortunately, the former chambers are not currently considered as suitable space to host meetings, given the size only allows for a small public gallery. At present, there is no audio and video equipment, and there is a lack of facilities for live streaming, which is a policy requirement of council.
Jamie Ramsey asks, can the mayor confirm she has declared all conflicts of interest with a politician that employed family members?
Conflict of interests are declared as required when a matter comes before council for decision and a conflict has arisen in relation to that matter. I assess all items that come before council, and if I determine that there is a conflict, I make this declaration and exclude myself from decision making.
Jamie Ramsey further asks, can the mayor declare that there is no conflict in her role in advocacy and advise what are the priorities for the whole of Brimbank?
The advocacy priorities for the whole of Brimbank are outlined in our Brimbank Advocacy Plan 2023-2025. This plan identifies fixing the Calder Freeway as one of Council's top advocacy priorities. Fixing the Calder is not just a priority of Brimbank, but for all councils throughout which the Calder passes. We are working with these councils on a broader advocacy campaign and look forward to providing updates in due course. The Calder remains a dangerous and congested road, and we will continue to advocate for the safety of our community, especially given that previously committed federal government funding for Calder upgrade was recently withdrawn.
The next question is, why has there not been plant-based options at most, if not all, of council's events? What is council doing to promote plant-based diet, and why is council providing petting farm experiences to community when they are counterproductive to both animal welfare and shifting away from animal agriculture?
Our climate emergency plan does acknowledge the importance of a plant-rich diet to meet the challenges of the climate crisis and to promote improved health and well-being. Council provides a range of vegetarian and vegan options at events and festivals. We also run a range of education activities to support community food growing and reducing food waste. Brimbank City Council has occasionally provided opportunities for local children to feed, touch, and learn about domesticated animals and petting zoos. This experience allows children in Brimbank who might otherwise have limited ways of interaction with animals to develop an interest in them, their needs, what they eat, and how they behave. Council staff source an ethical organization who adhere the Animal Welfare Victoria's Code of Practice to the public display of exhibition of animals.
Council's tree policy states that removals done in this calendar year to be replaced in the following year. Yet several residents have reported that trees have been removed and not replaced even years after they were removed. Council recently responded to an inquiry into this matter, stating 1,360 trees were removed last year alone, despite acknowledging heat waves being particularly severe in Brimbank due to the heat island effect, that there was no budget to replace all the trees removed. This is not detailed anywhere in the tree policy. What is council doing to communicate this requirement to residents, and why is there no mention of it in the policy itself?
Council has commitment to increase this tree canopy in Brimbank. The most effective and cost-effective way to do this is to approach tree planting in a strategic way via precincts. Whilst residents can request the replacement of tree outside their property, the street tree infill program will otherwise guide where trees are planted in a programmed way. This supports many more trees to be planted than individual locations we prioritize for replacement. Officers are aware of this inconsistency in the previous tree policy and will seek to address this when the policy is reviewed and updated. In the meantime, officers will provide further information on council website.
Graham Bloor has asked, with the Australian rules season pending, will council actually provide full-size goalposts instead of junior goalposts from last year for the neglected Carnley area?
Council provided a set of goalposts to the Kevin Flint Oval at the Dog Park in the 2023. The oval is not used for competitive football, and the allocated clubs on site are soccer and cricket, and as a result, full-size posts are not required. The junior size posts enable casual community use.
Graham Bloor also asked, given the need for monitors to oversee Brimbank Council, can residents now anticipate that all councillors will actually respond in a timely manner to letters, emails and phone calls?
Councillors recognise the importance of accessibility and responsiveness from all councillors to their constituents. It is our responsibility to ensure that your concerns are inquired are addressed in a timely and effective manner. However, please note that councillors receive a very high volume of communication and are not always able to respond immediately. Any queries regarding operational matters are best directed to Council's administration for consideration.
Council has received 18 questions from 10 residents concerning the conflict in Gaza. As the questions received are of similar nature, they have been grouped into themes and will be provided, and answers will be provided in accordance with Governance Rule 1514, which permits like questions to be grouped together and a single answer provided. Full questions will be recorded in the minutes of this meeting. Yasmin, Hung, Yamama, Irula, and Max have submitted questions relating to Council's engagement with the Brimbank for Palestine Solidarity Group in light of the Council's community engagement policy and the group's effort to communicate with councillors. The extent of community engagement that informed the notice of motion ceasefire in Gaza. Issues raised regarding the absence of feedback from the Brimbank for Palestine Solidarity Group in the development of the notice of motion ceasefire in Gaza, questioning the value placed on community insights, questions about the transparency and decision-making process behind the notice of motion ceasefire in Gaza and how it was developed in accordance with the community engagement policy, and a call for the Mayor to outline plans for engaging with the community on the issue of Gaza, referencing a significant petition and rally as indicators of community concern.
In the first instance, I would like to state that we acknowledge that there is a diversity of views held by our community on this conflict, which is having a devastating impact with thousands of lives now lost in a lasting trauma. We condemn violence in any form and express our deepest solidarity with the Brimbank community during these challenging times. We are focused on continuing to foster understanding, empathy, and peaceful dialogues in celebration of our multicultural community. In relation to Brimbank's community engagement policy, which is currently out for community feedback, this policy designed as a guide for best practice and effort, community engagement to inform decision-making for the benefits of community in relation to key council policies, strategies, and plans. The policy does not relate to engagement outside this scope, nor is able to be applied to notice of motion.
The next group of questions are from Van, Rula, Filena, Yamama, and Birdie and relate to why does the notice of motion in the agenda regarding the conflict in Gaza is not more akin to the previous motion regarding Ukraine, given the ongoing crisis in Gaza? Concerns about the Council's decision-making process in relation to the wording of the notice of motion, and difference in the notice of motion and the proposed motion put forth by the Brimbank for Palestine Solidarity Group and community petitions, raising questions about the alignment of Council's actions with community perspectives.
I know that this question are in relation to an item on tonight's agenda and as such will be debated on later this evening. With respect on that, I will only make mention that the notice of motion is requested by councillor for business items to be discussed and decided upon at the council meeting. A councillor may consider input from other councillors, council staff, or the community when drafting their motion. However, the wording included as a part of a notice of motion is entirely up to the councillor's introducing. Sorry.
Bath Green has asked, how does the Mayor and the Labor-aligned majority councillors feel that the state government has appointed 2 monitors to Brimbank Council to ensure that council's performance and governance rules are upheld? Is this a reflection of the poor performance of Brimbank Council, and how should the constituents of Brimbank feel?
I fully support and welcome the appointment of monitors to improve behaviour and governance for our community's benefit. It is crucial for councillors to know their duties under the Local Government Act and work together for Brimbank's good governance and the best outcomes for the community.
Bath Green has also asked, with council committed to building a Vietnamese museum in the heart of Sunshine to celebrate the Vietnamese contribution in the Brimbank area, is this a slap in the face to all other ethnicities such as the Greek, Italian, Maltese, Croatian, Indigenous Australians that have massively contributed to the Brimbank and its success, history and culture?
Brimbank City Council has not yet made a decision in relation to this matter and will be considering it at further council meeting. Brimbank Council celebrates the city's diversity through a range of activities, services and initiatives. If the museum progressed, this would be one such initiative that celebrates the city's diversity.
Council has received a question from Filina Pistillo. This question has been disallowed in accordance with Rule 55.11.2 of the Brimbank Governance Rules as it has an objectionable substance. We'll move on to the next question from next group of questions are in relation to the conflict in Gaza. The third group of questions come from Hanan and Omar and relate to Council specifically condemning the action of Israel and whether the Council will acknowledge genocide and ethnic cleansing in Gaza.
The Council is deeply aware of the suffering and historical complexion surrounding the conflict in Gaza. While we recognize the profound impact of these events, our focus remains on fostering community cohesion and respect of human rights within our community. As a local government body, we advocate for understanding and respectful dialogue with our community, emphasizing the importance of pursuing peace for all affected. Sorry, councillors, we will need to extend question time tonight to another 15 minutes. Do I have a mover? Councillor Nguyen.
I would like to move to extend the question time by 15 minutes.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Takos. Thank you. All in favour, please raise your hands. Carried.
Bertie Sande has asked, are councillors' political aspirations a hindrance when it comes to war crimes and the plight of Palestinian people?
Our councillors are deeply committed to serving the community, ensuring that all voices are heard. The council remains dedicated to an inclusive approach that respects diverse representatives and seeks to address complex global issues with sensitivity and fairness.
Omar Barini has asked, we have been hearing the same rhetoric over and over again about why passing a motion in solidarity with Palestine is not a local government issue. Yet we are aware of representatives of Brimbank Council having attended the ALGA conference held in June 2022, where Ambassador Vasil Miroshchenko was given a platform to speak to 1,000 councillors and community leaders. Councillors voted unanimously for the motion. They expressed solidarity with Ukraine. Why would a motion for Palestine be treated any differently, considering what is happening to Palestine is a genocide and deliberate act of ethnic cleansing of a sanctioned population?
The Australian Local Government Association is a body that includes all councils from across Australia. Brimbank is just one of many participating councils and is not an organiser of these conferences. Each motion proposed to council, whether at this conference or other, are considered on their own merits.
Shannon Milek has asked, to mitigate the risk of COVID-19, the Victorian State Government advises that public gatherings for disabled people only be held in venues that have ventilation through fresh air and HEPA filtration installed. Yet Brimbank continues to encourage vulnerable people to gather in venues that are not compliant with these current COVID-19 safety measures. When concerns were raised at the Brimbank Disability Network Group meeting, council staff not only seemed unaware of the current health advice, but responded saying they do not need to follow the advice as it's not legislated. What is council doing to ensure its vulnerable community members know and understand the current risk and health advice regarding COVID-19, and when council will be updating their public buildings to be compliant with state government health advice?
Thank you for your feedback. We acknowledge that your feedback has been received. The Department of Health have guidelines listed on their website for COVID infectious prevention and control. This information includes reference to various ventilation and filter system. Our buildings meet building code regulation, while fresh air ventilation system and HEPA filters are referenced as an option through the Department of Health. They are not legislated, and therefore council is not required to fit their system into all the facilities.
Shannon Mullock has asked a question in relation to the Green Gully Dog Park. Can council advise why accessible car spaces have not been placed in close proximity to this new dog park, despite there being regular car spaces available for non-disabled people, and when council intends to rectify the issue?
Officers have confirmed there has been no change to the disabled car space as a part of the dog park upgrade. This was not part of the scope of the park upgrade. Disabled car park spaces exit near the playground and within the new car park near the clubhouse. Officers have committed to undertake an assessment on whether additional disabled car park bays are considered warrant along McRae Boulevard if additional disabled parking bays are deemed warranted. The council officers will seek funding from further budget to enable the construction of the disabled car park bays.
Paranza McIntosh has asked, what is the reason for the newly added registration to council meetings?
Due to ongoing disruption experienced at the council meetings, council implemented the registration process to further support effort to maintain a safe and secure environment for all participants, whilst allow councillors to conduct an ordinary meeting.
The last question is from Paul Whelan, and it is regard to an operational matter, and as such, this question will be addressed directly with Mr. Whelan. There is no further questions. Yes.
We're going to go to item 10, which is petitions. There are 3 petitions to be received this evening. 10.1 Fireworks. Petition received from 368 petitioner requesting Brimbank City Council to stop granting permits that allow the use of fireworks at events in the community. May I have a mover on motion to receive the petition? Councillor Takos.
Move the motion to receive the petition.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder? Councillor David. Thank you. All in favour? Would you like to raise your hands? Thank you. It's carried. We have 10.2. Ceasefire in Gaza. Petition received from 3,408 petitioners requesting that Council raise a motion in relation to Gaza as per the shared screen. May I have a mover or motion to receive this petition? Councillor Takos.
I move the motion as per shared screen.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Nguyen.
I would like to second the motion.
Thank you. All in favour, please raise your hands. It's carried. 10.3 LGBTIQA plus advocacy group. Petition received from 22 petitioners requesting Council to establish an LGBTIQA plus community advisory committee. May I have a mover of motion to receive this petition? Councillor Papalia.
Sure, I move the motion as per shared screen.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Nguyen.
I would like to second the motion.
Thank you. All in favour, please raise your hands. It's carried. In accordance with the resolution to alter the order of business for this meeting, we will now move directly to item 13.5. Ceasefire in Gaza. Notice of motion 5/24, Councillor Takos.
I'd like to move the motion as per shared screen.
Can everyone see the screen? Do I have a seconder? Councillor Lancashire.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I second the motion that's on the screen.
Thank you. Councillor Takos, would you like to speak to this motion?
Thank you. As an elected local councillor for the second most diverse municipality in Victoria, I stand here with this motion to add our voice to the call for peace and cessation of war in the Middle East, and to speak against racism in all its forms in both Australia and internationally. Many have asked me, why bring this into the local council chamber? It's a complex international conflict. It's not relevant to your role. It is relevant when my constituents who voted for their voices to be represented in the chamber express complete despair, deep unfathomable pain for the immense loss of life, the displacement, and the reality that their families and loved ones face daily when they witness the images of war and horror. We as elected councillors cannot turn away. I cannot turn away. I was in Israel and the West Bank last year. We have an intrinsic responsibility to acknowledge the devastation of life and to be the voice for the voiceless. In any context and in any time, we have a duty of care to stand up, and there is never any justification for the killing of innocent civilians. We call on the following: that we support for an immediate cessation of bombing and violence in Gaza. We call for an immediate end of the illegal siege and occupation of Gaza and the rest of occupied territories of Palestine. We call for the upholding and respecting of the rights of Palestinian people, emphasising the need for immediate humanitarian aid and access to essential services. We urge the Australian government to condemn the Israeli war and genocide in Gaza and take an active role in international efforts to bring about peace and stability in the region and to support initiatives that aim at a just and fair resolution. We reaffirm the Council's commitment to support our diverse and multi-faith community, fostering an environment of understanding, compassion and peace. In summation, I would like to mention that many people will continue to argue that this motion has no place in local council. I and many of you have received many threatening calls and emails that have amounted to a concerted campaign to shut down this discussion. However, I would like to raise to your attention, I received a letter from a 16-year-old local student whose identity I've been asked to protect. The student's letter expressed to me why it is important that I and fellow councillors stand up here today to convey the voices of our community. Unsure of the complexity of this issue, he attended the Brimbank Solidarity Group for Palestine community rally, as he wanted to see and hear for himself what they were speaking about, and to be open-minded, as we should be. He went along. And I quote, he said, "Everyone in this rally were peaceful, loving Brimbank residents that just want recognition and support from their local council. They want a ceasefire motion passed by their local representatives on council. I know this is a complex issue and very difficult issue to have a conversation, but if you do bring a ceasefire motion, you have my full support and the community support. Many in our community would like to see our local councillors not to be silent, but to speak up at this very difficult time."
1 minute.
Councillors, these student words resonate deeply with me, and I hope they resonate with you. We as elected representatives must speak out for human rights and an immediate ceasefire and cessation to the bombing and violence in Gaza. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Lancashire, would you like to speak to this motion?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yes, look, I would like to thank Councillor Tarkos for raising this notice of motion. It is clearly a very difficult topic. However, many of the points that's been raised we all agree with, and that is that as councillors, we do have a right to not just simply argue and advocate for things that are important to Brimbank directly at the local government level, but we have frequently argued and advocated for things at the state and federal level, such as schools and other things that are important to our community. So we certainly have a right to undertake this this advocacy work and to have the say. We have all sat night after night watching the horror unfolding in this region. And I guess it has affected all of us to see these sort of things going on, knowing that regardless of the protractors involved, there are families, women, children, all being affected dreadfully by what is occurring in this area. So on that basis, I've read carefully the material put forward by Councillor Tarkos and have determined that I would be supportive of this NOM and supporting of the intent of the words and the advocacy that this would bring forward. So thank you, Madam Mayor. That's my comments.
Thank you. Councillors, would anyone else like to speak to this motion? Councillor Nguyen?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I would like to move an amendment to include a couple of items to the notice of motion.
Mhm.
And it is to include the items that have been called for by the petition raised, which is to include 1. Calls for an immediate permanent ceasefire in Gaza to allow for urgent humanitarian aid to reach the people of the occupied territory of Gaza following 7 weeks of indiscriminate bombardment and mass killing of innocent civilians. Number 2, to lobby the Australian government to get end the war crimes carried out by the Israeli government on the occupied territory of Gaza. 3, to lobby the Australian government to call Israel's legacy of gross humanitarian violations and atrocities carried out on the Palestinian people. And 4, to call for an immediate end to the illegal occupation, apartheid, and displacement of the people of Palestine.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder to this amendment? Councillor Papalia?
I second the motion as per shared screen. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor, would you like to speak to your amendment?
Yeah, thank you, Madam Mayor. First of all, I would like to really congratulate and Councillor Tarkos for putting in this notice of motion, and also Councillor Lancashire for seconding it. And I also agree with the sentiments that you raised about how nobody wins in war, and it is an atrocity that's happening. There are innocent civilians that are being killed on both sides. But I must point out that there is a power imbalance. So I want to acknowledge here in the council chamber that this conflict has been ongoing. It's been an ongoing conflict for many decades, even before October the 7th last year in 2023. And, I do want to condemn the terrorist Hamas attacks on the innocent Israeli citizens, the approximately 1,200 people that were killed. But I also want to acknowledge here also that the bombardment and the siege that has been placed on the innocent people of Gaza, it has amounted to nearly 29,000 deaths, almost half of those, 12,000, being children. And furthermore, because of the conflict, 2 million people are displaced, 2 million Palestinians. So, oh my God, there is not an equal coverage on what is happening to the people in the Middle East. And, oh, my laptop just died. Sorry. And this is not about being racist. This is not about anti-Semitism. It's actually being anti-colonialism, because like what they're calling for, the community is saying, is that there is an illegal occupation of land. There are human rights violations. A state actor is essentially limiting the access of humanitarian access, ambulances, food, water to innocent people. And I want to say that, yes, we are a local government, but this is an international issue that has affected many of our residents. And I feel like it is my duty as a councillor to raise that and to put it in the motion. So, thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Papalia, would you like to speak to this motion, the amendment?
Thank you. Only just to add that what is happening is heartbreaking, and I think we're all on the same page in the sense that we want this to stop. Whilst we have limited power to make that happen, I do feel it is my duty and our duty to speak up and do what we can. Thank you.
Councillors, would anyone else like to speak to amendment or against it? If not, I'll put this amendment to vote. All in favour, please raise your hands. All against? Motion is carried.
Madam Mayor, can I move a motion to bring forward the remaining motions this evening? Like we've brought this one forward? Yeah, the notice of motions, the remaining ones, can we bring those forward?
Let me check with the governance. We have to finish on this motion. After we finish on this one, we can vote on bringing all of them forward. If it's voted, if passed, we can do that. Thank you. The original one?
No, it's a motion.
No, I asked them.
Because we just go through that amendment, not the whole thing. We voted to accept the amendment as part of the substantial motion.
Okay, councillors, so we now, if anyone wants to speak to substantial motion, to speak to a substantial motion. So the motion with amendment. Would anyone else like to speak to that? Or against? Or
Just for clarification for the gallery, councillors just voted on to accept the amendment, which has now become part of the substantive motion. So now the debate on the whole motion, including the amendments, will now continue, and then a vote on the whole motion at hand, including the amendments, will be taken. Given that Councillor Tarkos and Councillor Lancashire and Councillor Nguyen have spoken to the motion, will allow any other councillors to speak to the motion.
so does anyone like to speak to the motion? Against? If not, all in favour, please raise your hands. Motion is carried, but who is against? Any councillors against? No? Okay. It's carried anyways.
Madam Mayor, can I now move a motion to bring forward the remaining notices of motions this evening?
Do I have a seconder? Councillor Tarkos?
I second that they be forwarded. Thank you.
No worries. Everyone in favour, please raise your hands. It's carried. So we're going to go to notice of motion 13, item 13. There are 5 remaining notice of motion of consideration this evening. 13.1, political party membership registration, notice of motion, 1/24, Councillor Tarkos.
I'd like to move the motion as per shared screen.
Can everyone see shared screen? Do I have a seconder of this motion? Councillor Kerr?
I second the motion as per the shared screen.
Thank you. Councillor Takis, would you like to speak to this motion?
Thank you. This motion and the next motion that I have put on the agenda are both being proposed to promote public transparency, accountability and good governance. As it stands, Brimbank City Council does not keep or maintain a political party membership register. The purpose of the register will be to provide clarity and openness to the community regarding political affiliations of each councillor. Identifying these affiliations provides a relevant governance check, as I believe these affiliations may influence the decision-making process and representation of community interests. This information will be a public register available on the council's website for everyone to access, and there are other councils that also share this on their page. I believe that the creation of this register will promote public transparency, is in line with our code of conduct, which is essential for building trust between councillors and our community. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Kerr, would you like to speak to this motion?
Look, I'd just like to thank Councillor Tarkos for bringing this motion to council. One of my biggest beliefs as being a councillor is full transparency, so I think it's a great idea and I fully support this.
Go on, so. Yeah, that's it. Thank you. Councillors, would anyone else like to speak to this motion? No? If not, I put it to vote. All in favour, please raise your hands. It's carried. Improving openness and transparency. Notice of motion 2/24, Councillor Tarkos.
Sorry, I'd like to move the motion as per shared screen.
Can everyone see shared screen properly? Do I have a seconder to this? Councillor Kerr?
I second the motion as per the shared screen.
Thank you. Councillor Tarkis, would you like to speak to your notice of motion?
Thank you. The Councillor Code of Conduct is a set of guidelines or rules that govern the behaviour and actions of councillors. The purpose of the Code of Conduct is to establish standards of ethical conduct and professionalism for councillors to ensure transparency, accountability and integrity in their roles as public officials. I am proposing an amendment to the current Code of Conduct to include a section on prohibiting binding caucus voting. This is already in the Local Government Act, but what I'm proposing that it is also put into our Code of Conduct. Caucus voting refers to a practice where members, such as councillors, agree to vote together as a block. In a binding caucus, members commit to supporting the majority decision reached within the caucus, regardless of their personal opinions or the preferences of their constituents. The issues that arise from caucus voting can create an environment where councillors feel obligated to vote in a certain way, regardless of their personal views or the interest of their constituents. This can lead to decisions that are not fully reflective of the diverse opinions within council or the community it serves. Furthermore, the Supreme Court of Victoria has previously decided in a case involving a neighbouring council of Hobson's Bay that a councillor is to approach a matter before council without having made any predetermined decision on the matter. In other words, that we come to the chamber with an open mind. By prohibiting caucus voting, the motion aims to ensure that each councillor can freely and openly express their views and understandings of matters before council. This fosters a culture of transparency and integrity, where decisions are made based on open debate and careful consideration, and of course, robust debate. I believe that adding an additional section in the Code of Conduct in relation to caucus voting is necessary to promote councillor cohesion and effective good governance. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Kerr, would you like to speak to this motion?
No, thank you, Madam Mayor.
Anyone else, councillors? Would anyone like to speak to the motion or against, perhaps?
I have a question.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's for Councillor Takos or for governance. I was just wondering, I was under the impression that this is already in the Like it's already something that we must comply with?
It's in the Local Government Act, but we don't have it in the Code of Conduct. So
Okay,
what
so
we're
it's
doing
already
is adding
state requirement, but just not a formality in the in our council one.
Code of Conduct. That's my
Is that-
understanding.
Does
I'm not 100% sure it is in the legislation, but I can take that on notice and get back to you. Unfortunately, just won't be able to do so immediately.
Any more questions or comments, or Councillor Brenton?
Yeah, I think from memory in the council code of conduct, the wording is like we have to enter the meetings not having made our mind up. I think it is not so much using the word caucus and things, but what would be the effective difference for this wording as opposed to like what we currently have? Sorry, I just asked what would be the effective difference to the current wording, because from memory it's that we have to enter with a open mind, which would be effectively the same as not being part of a caucus. Just because this is a process, I'd like to know what the effective difference would be.
I think it's to avoid a feeling of coercion, that when you do come into the chamber, effectively, you can discuss matters, but you cannot make a decision. You have to come in to every decision, listen to, obviously read your papers, your evidence, allow for robust debate, and then make a decision. What I'm saying is that I can only stand for myself as a councillor. I've always done that. But this is to protect and enshrine it in our code of conduct to make sure that people do not feel coerced on whatever lines, political, that they come in with a free mind.
Thank you. If there is no more questions, councillors, I'll put this motion to vote. All in favour, please raise your hands. Motion is carried. We're going to go to 13.3, Taylor's Road upgrade. Notice of motion 3/24. Councillor Kerr.
I move this motion as per the shared screen.
Thank you. Can everyone see shared screen? Do I have a seconder for this motion? Councillor Lancashire.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I would like to second this motion.
Thank you. Councillor Kerr, would you like to speak to this motion?
Yes, please. All right. So once again, the topic of Taylor's Road and the risky bottleneck has arisen after another fatality and multiple serious accidents in the last few months, which have highlighted the urgency of this matter. Taylor's Road is an extremely busy and dangerous thoroughfare. We need the state government to listen to our concerns and declare this road a state-managed road to avoid further accidents. The City of Melton has announced planned works along Taylor's Road, the Taylor's Road corridor, to manage their growing issues on Taylor's Road and mitigating the risks the road imposes to its residents. I called on the state government, specifically the Honourable Minister for Roads and Safety, Melissa Horne, to declare Taylor's Road a state-managed road and take our concerns seriously. There have been enough deaths and serious injuries, and on behalf of the Brimbank community, please help us fix this nasty, dangerous bottleneck. I also call on our local members of parliament to advocate on our behalf. We need your voice. Not only are our residents stuck in daily traffic jams, they're also losing their lives. I urge my fellow councillors to support the community concerns by supporting this motion. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Lancashire, would you like to speak to this motion?
Certainly would, Madam Mayor. Thank you very much, and thank you for putting forward this motion. We've considered similar things in the past, and we must keep working on this issue. We know that the stuff up, and I'll use that word, the stuff up and narrowing that road down dates back decades to a time when people thought Melbourne wouldn't grow beyond that point. Well, how silly was that? That's ridiculous, and it has grown, and it's growing very rapidly beyond that point. to where it's an increasing traffic disaster. We need to have that section of the road declared a Vic Roads road, state managed, and we have followed this up in the past where we have seen engineering drawings which show that in fact it can be achieved. There is a property boundary to property boundary distance which allows this to occur. And it's a matter of engineering, of putting maybe some power poles underground, barriers up along footpaths, but certainly a separation to an arterial standard can be achieved. It's a matter of several hundred metres, but causes a lot of trouble. This is something that, again, I would certainly welcome the motion put forward by Councillor Kerr and support it, and certainly recommend to our fellow councillors that we continue the fight to get this problem, which we are all aware of, including the local member, fixed. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other councillors? Councillor Takos?
I would like to congratulate Councillor Kerr and endorse this motion for this exceptionally dangerous road. There is, and also Councillor Lancashire's comments on the engineering side, and that the allowance is made for that road to be widened. Now, there's also 2 new developments that are going to be developed beyond Caroline Springs. When you think about the traffic right now, imagine once that development is completed and people trying to rush to get home on this already, gridlocked road. Every time people walk, people have said the amount of accidents, even in Keilor Downs, people trying to turn into Taylor's Road from Balk, for example, which is quite busy. There have been several accidents there that people have said on a daily basis happening because people are just gridlocked inside Keilor Downs from Green Gully getting on that road to Taylor's Road. So I'm looking forward in terms of the developments once they're completed. This will add thousands more cars. Something needs to be done. Thank you for this notice of motion.
Councillors, would anyone else like to speak to this motion?
I would like to congratulate councillors for raising the motion. Now, as the ward councillors, I'm hoping that I can put, like, I'm not the ward councillor, but support an amendment just to include the installation of traffic lights at the intersection of Taylor's Road and Tennyson Drive. As it is on screen. Thank you.
Can everyone see screen clear? Do I have a seconder to amendment? I don't think Councillor Kerr can second that. Yeah. Councillor Nguyen?
I can second that, thank you.
Councillor Papalia, would you like to speak to your amendment?
No, thank you.
Councillor Nguyen? Would anyone else like to speak to this amendment?
I would, Madam Mayor.
You have right of reply.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you.
I just want to say thank you to Councillor Papalia for adding that in. I think the more infrastructure and safety that we can get on Taylor's Road, the better. So, yeah, I fully support that.
Thank you. Anyone else, councillors? I would like to make a comment. Thank you for this notice of motion. I think it's very important, and I'll just suggest all the Brimbank community to try to find online Fix Taylor's Road, which I started 9th of May 2022. Your signature is very important to us. That can make happen probably earlier rather than later with the Councillor Kerr's motion. Thank you. All in favour, please raise your hands. It's carried.
Sorry, point of order. Wouldn't that just be moving the amendment? Don't we now need to move the substantive motion?
We did move to, we're going now to substantial motion. Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
So now we're going to go to substantial motion. All in favour, please raise your hands. It's carried. Thank you. We're going to go to 13.4, BAWC fees. Notice of motion 4/24, Councillor Kerr.
I move the motion as per the shared screen.
Thank you. Can everyone see the screen properly? Do I have a seconder? Councillor Takos.
I second the motion as per shared screen. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Kerr, would you like to speak to your notice of motion?
Yes, please. All right, so the Brimbank Aquatic Centre has been a huge success. Initially, it was projected to attract less than 5,000 members. We're currently sitting on 10,500 members. I've spent a lot of time at this centre, meeting various patrons, and noted that many of the patrons that I've met come from outside Brimbank to use this amazing facility. The facts are, Brimbank residents are the ones who funded this project with about $60 million of ratepayers' money. The state government provided a measly $2 million towards this project. Although it's fantastic that this centre is hustling and bustling, our residents are struggling with the cost of living as it is, so we need to give them a break. I put this motion forward on behalf of all Brimbank residents to investigate the possibility of offering them a discounted entry to thank them for funding the overwhelming majority of this project. It is great we have patrons from all over the West and beyond, but the fact is our residents have funded this project. Our residents struggle to get a car park. Our residents must wait outside in line when the centre is at capacity, and our residents are the ones who miss out on classes because they book out so fast. It is our residents who deserve to be rewarded in the way of a discount for using this centre along with the Sunshine Leisure Centre. I will also continue to advocate to state and federal government for funding for an outdoor pool, a multi-level car park at Brimbank Aquatic Centre, and eventually an upgrade to the Sunshine Leisure Centre. I hope my fellow councillors can support this motion on behalf of every resident in Brimbank. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Takos.
I would also like to congratulate Councillor Kerr for this. I think that the inordinate burden has been put on our residents to pay for this, and we had to borrow because we did not receive a lot of state or any federal funding. And I also feel that it is become a regional centre. But for it to be a regional centre, you would need regional funding. The only funding that was received was from our residents. Our rateable base was our residents, and I feel as though they should be prioritised because this centre was created for them. The evidence base was based on our community's disadvantage to access facilities of this calibre. We built it for our community. Now it has become a regional centre. There are people coming from, I know, as far as Yarraville, Melton and beyond, and it's because it is a fantastic centre. But what it's creating a lot of people who don't have transport to get there, difficulties to get into classes, who are finding it very difficult to even get to a swim class. The swim classes are booked out for months. So the very purpose we built this for was to lift our community and the disadvantage through health and wellbeing outcomes. I'm really concerned that our community is missing out because of the cost at being an impediment. And as Councillor Kerr said, cost of living means a lot of these people are reconsidering even being a member. So we need to think about some way where we can make it more affordable. So I commend this motion. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillors, would anyone else like to speak to this motion? Councillor Lancashire.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yes, look, I commend Councillor Kerr in putting this motion forward and agree with the comments put forward by Councillor Kerr and Councillor Takos. The cost of these facilities is very important to particularly lower income groups in the municipality and elsewhere. The comments made by Councillor Kerr in terms of the need for given the high use of the centre and the need for outdoor swimming pools and car parking, are also matters that need to be considered. So I guess the only caution I would provide is that in reporting on this, we should have regard to the future development potential of this centre, and make sure that if there are to be fee discounts, while being valuable to the people concerned, don't prohibit us from making the changes and enhancements to the centre that we do think need to be made. And in fact, particularly in relation to the outdoor pools, were recommended by the previous council, and we had to draw a line somewhere in the sand, as it were, and that's where we drew a line in the sand. But we would love to have built the cold water pools at that time. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Councillors, would anyone else like to speak to this motion? Councillor Brenton?
Just a question, Madam
Oh,
Mayor. How we're going to achieve this?
I believe this is that council receives report providing advice on fee decisions for Brimbank residents to attend Brimbank Aquatic and Wellness Centre and Sunshine Leisure Centre. So I don't believe it's a decision making. It's just to receive or to provide advice for now. So we're just voting on providing advice, and then further we will discuss after the advice is provided, I believe. Councillor Brenton?
Thank you. I have a question for the director. In the lead up to Bork being open, I remember reports and briefings being done on the fees and how they were set, and was it possible to do discounts? Have we had reports exploring this before that I'm misremembering?
Thank you. Through the Mayor, we have provided a previous report to Council. I'll have to take it on notice about the exact date of that, but we can of course review that information that was provided in that report to provide another update report to Council. Thank you.
Does that clarify?
Thank you.
Does that clarify?
Yes, I'd like to voice my concerns if now is the time to do that.
Yep.
I'm concerned that we already have this information, and that I remember the details we went into about how low we could take it so that it was still viable, because like you said, council did fund this, and in order to discount it, that would still be just passing the cost of running the facility onto our budget. So it feels like, you know, Brimbank residents are going to be paying for it either way, and we already have this information. That's my concern, is that this might be another report that is using officers' valuable time when we already have this information.
We need an update because of the tremendous membership that we have now of 10,000, to get a breakdown at least of postcodes and understanding of the core group that we wanted to target is our community, our disadvantaged community experiencing poor health outcomes. And I think that it's worthwhile to get an update and a report.
Madam Mayor, can
Thank
I
you.
add to
You
those
have a
points?
right of reply. I
Yes.
just want to see if any other councillors want to speak to it. Councillor Nguyen?
Hi, thank you. I would like to thank your Councillor Ter for raising concerns that have been raised by several residents about, cost can be a prohibitive factor into accessing the Brimbank Aquatic Wellness Centre. It is a fantastic facility, but for that you have to pay for it, right? But I also hear Councillor Branton's point about, okay, well, there have been, benchmarks that the council office has already done to figure out the price of memberships. But I'm not really opposed to just getting advice and seeing, are there any updates to that, given the fact that we do now have over 10,000 members. Yeah.
Thank you. Councillors, would anyone else like to speak to this motion? Councillor Kerr, you have a right of reply.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Look, I just want to say that I did a little bit of research before I put this motion in, and when we were looking at figures in the reports that Councillor Branton was bringing up, was they were based on projections of between 3,000 and 5,000 members. So we've now doubled that and more. So we need to revisit those figures. Furthermore, in the previous advice, I've just I heard the figure today during one of the questions that it was given that 30% of residents are 30% of patrons to Bork are non-residents. So based on that alone, we'd only be losing a small amount of income on 70% of the patrons. So we still have that 30% of non-residents that are using that. So I guess my idea in raising this motion is to look at a report that brings figures back, looking at the projection and looking at the current patronage and looking at the current usage and where are these people
1
coming
minute
from.
left.
Yep, and why can't we give our residents a small discount in honour of the fact that they funded this project to begin with? Thank you.
Thank you. All in favour, please raise your hands. It's carried. 13.6, funding for automated external defibrillators. Notice of motion 6/24, Councillor Riley.
I'd like to move the motion as per the shared screen.
Thank you. Can everyone see clearly shared screen? Councillor David, you want to second the motion? Yeah, thank you. Councillor Riley, would you like to speak to your notice of motion?
Yes, Madam Mayor. Firstly, I would like to thank and acknowledge the Albion resident who brought this matter to my attention. And now I'm bringing it to the chambers. Automated external defibrillators, or AEDs, can be life-saving in cases of sudden cardiac arrest. Evidence indicates that AEDs should be provided in high-exposure locations with a high volume of people. For example, public buildings, public transport hubs, community centres, sporting clubs, and facilities. Defib in Your Street is a program championed by St John Ambulance Victoria to place automated external defibrillators, or AEDs, at accessible places in our community to assist with sudden cardiac arrests. The 3021 postcode, which encompasses St Albans, Kings Park, Kielba and Auburn was selected with a partnership with Council as it had the equal highest rate of sudden cardiac arrests in Victoria between 2018 and 2022. The state government had a historical grant available for sporting clubs through the Defibrillators for Sporting Clubs and Facilities program, but this did not extend to community clubs or community-run centres. Funding from the state government could mean community-managed, non-for-profit neighbourhood houses and community houses can be supported to have an AED. I ask my fellow councillors to support this notice of motion for these life-saving investments in our community. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor David, would you like to speak to this motion?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'd just like to say that this life-saving equipment has been with us for quite a long time now. And I know of a number of clubs, sporting clubs, and a lot of community clubs that they got that type of equipment. They got that through Multicultural Victoria, funding through that. And of course, they combined with the St. John's Ambulance, where they come along and teach or perhaps give a lesson to appropriate people there if it requires at one stage or another. But it's a great thing to have. And yes, we should, I think, as a council, maybe we can drop a line to our communities and sporting clubs and other organizations that they funded by our council to let them know that there is such a thing where they can put their hands on. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor David. Anyone else, councillors? Would anyone else like to speak to this motion? If not, I'll put this motion to vote. All in favour, please raise your hands. It's carried.
Madam Mayor, can I suggest that we put in a motion for a short break, toilet break?
Would you like to move that motion?
Yes, please.
Do I have a seconder?
I second that. Motion.
So 5 minutes. We're gonna. Sorry.
Then we have to move the motion.
So for 5 minutes, can we vote on it now? But I'm just suggesting 5 minutes. All in favour, please raise your hands. It's carried. So we'll be back. 39. at 8:45. Thank you. 11. Minutes, reports of delegated committees. There are no minutes or reports of delegated committees. Item 12, officers' reports. There are 12 officer reports for consideration by council tonight. If you have alternate or amended motion this evening, you must draft those motions and provide to governance team by email so that they may be shared on screen and form part of the meeting. Otherwise, we may have to defer the matter until the motion has been written, allowing the meeting to proceed uninterrupted. We're going to go to 12.1. Planning activity update and delegated decisions and planning scheme amended update December 2023 and January 2024. Mr. Walsh, thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The purpose of this report is to provide Council information regarding the status of planning permit applications and trends in planning approvals in Brimbank. Decisions made under delegated authority during December or between December 2023 and January 24 regarding planning permit applications and other matters, and also the status of current planning scheme amendments as at the 31st of January of this year. Officers recommend that Council notes the planning activity update and delegated decisions as outlined in Attachment 1 and notes the planning scheme amendment summary at Attachment 3. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Councillors, are there any questions for the Director? Do I have a mover of this motion, of this report? Councillor Lancashire.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I move the officer's recommendation.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Papalia.
Second the motion, thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Lancashire, would you like to speak to this report?
No, thank you, Madam Mayor.
Councillor Papalia, would you like to speak to this report? No. Any other councillors? Would anyone like to speak to this report? If not, I put the report to vote. All in favour, please raise your hands. It's carried. We're going to go to 12.2, Planning Compliance Activity Update, 1st of October to 31st of December 2023. Mr. Walsh.
Thank you again, Madam Mayor. The purpose of this report is to provide Council information regarding planning compliance activity in the period you outlined, and officers recommend that Council notes the planning compliance activity update report for the period, including the attachments.
Thank you. Councillors, are there any questions for the Director? Do I have a mover of this report? Councillor Lancashire.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I move the officer's recommendation.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Kerr.
I second the officer's recommendation as per the shared screen.
Thank you. Councillor Lancashire, would you like to speak to this report or this motion?
No, thank you, Madam Mayor.
Councillor Kerr, would you like to speak to this report?
No, thank you.
Any other councillors? Would anyone like to speak to this report? If not, I'll put this report to vote. All in favour, please raise your hands. It's carried. We're going to go to 12.3, Application to Amend Planning Permit P699/2017 for land previously known as 322 Duke Street, Sunshine North. Mr. Walsh.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The purpose of this report is to provide Council with an assessment of a proposed amendment to the planning permit to allow construction of 2 apartment blocks at 400A Duke Street in Sunshine North. As you outlined, it was previously known as 322 Duke Street, and this assessment has been made against the provisions of the Brimbank planning scheme. Officers recommend that Council issues an amended planning permit for the construction of 85 dwellings in the form of 2 apartment buildings, in addition to the existing development at the land at 322 Duke Street, subject to a range of conditions outlined in Attachment 5 to this report. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Councillors, are there any questions for the Director? Do I have a mover of this report? Councillor Lancashire.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I move the officer's recommendation.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder? Councillor David.
Seconded, Madam Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Lancashire, would you like to speak to this report?
No, thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor David, would you like to speak to this report? Councillors, would anyone else like to speak to this report? No? I put this report to vote. All in favour, please raise your hands. It's carried. (12.4) Integrated Water Management Update. Mr. Walsh.
Thank you again, Madam Mayor. The purpose of this report is to provide Council with an update on the catchment integrated water management plans and the review and planned update to the Brimbank Sustainable Water Management Strategy 2013 to 2023. Officers recommend that Council notes the Maribyrnong and Werribee Catchment Integrated Water Management Plans at Attachment 1 and 2. Rights to the chairs of the forums, both the Maribyrnong and Werribee forums, giving in principle support to the plans and requesting amendments as detailed in the report. And notes the review of the Brimbank Sustainable Water Management Strategy and notes that officers will engage with the Brimbank community voice to inform the development of the draft Brimbank Integrated Water Management Strategy. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Councillors, are there any questions for the Director? Do I have a mover of this report? Councillor Takos?
I move the report as per business papers.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Papalia?
I second the report. I second the motion, sorry,
As per business
as
papers.
per business papers.
Thank you. Councillor Takos, would you like to speak to this report?
Thank you. Yes, I'd just like to speak to Action 24 and 25. In this report, I'd just like to say that the Green Gully Stormwater Harvesting Program delivers 40 megalitres of water to irrigate 7 hectares of open space. This is a highly successful harvesting project. It's good to see that the expansion of the facilities at Green Gully, that there is an action to expand the existing stormwater harvesting scheme so that water meets approximately 80% of the reserves for future irrigation needs. We need more of these types of irrigation projects in our reserves. And Action 25, Stony Creek Albion Quarter Precinct, there's a real opportunity here not to be missed with the precinct's redevelopment into an improved and sustainable social environmental landscape. However, it is somewhat abandoned at the moment after the discovery, as we know, of asbestos drove up the price of turning this concrete channel into a livable oasis for a community that suffers the worst heat island effect in our community. So I really support these recommendations, but emphasise that although a lot of spending is done in other LGAs, our community also needs to have these types of projects not abandoned but re-looked at for greening and revitalisation. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Papalia, would you like to speak to this report?
No, thank you.
Any other councillors? Would anyone else like to speak to this report? If not, I put this report to vote. All in favour, please raise your hands. Thank you. It's carried. Before we go to 12.5, Quarter 2 Budget Report, I believe Councillor Riley has declared conflict of interest, so we're just going to wait. Should I use microphone or no? Can't hear? No? Okay, so 12.5, Quarter 2 Budget Report, October, November, December 2023. Mr. Stormer.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This report presents the second quarter financial result for the 23-24 financial year for Council's noting. Our operating surplus is currently $104 million, which is about $12 million favorable to budget. Just a reminder that at this time of year, that large operating surplus is because we've recognized all of our rates revenue, and of course we still have 6 more months of operating expenditure to go. Our forecast is at 1.12 million, which is below the forecast, which is below the budgeted surplus of 6.92 million. And the primary driver for that is that we received our financial assistance grant for this financial year in the previous financial year. And whilst we think that we'll still receive that this year, because we don't know that with certainty, we're not budgeting for that. If we do receive it, as we have every year, then that forecast surplus will change, and we'll be right back to where we were, and probably actually better, because there's been a number of savings. In terms of capital works, year to date we're at 18 million, which is versus a budget of 18.7 million. The forecast for the full year is 64.3 million, and the report itself details a lot more in it. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillors, are there any questions for the Director? Do I have a mover of this report? Councillor Tarkos?
I move the report as per shared screen.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder?
Second, Madam Mayor. Thank you.
Councillor Davids? Thank you. Councillor Tarkos, would you like to speak to this report?
I congratulate the report. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor David, would you like to speak to this report?
I was going to say, Madam Mayor, great report and well done, Director. First presentation to us. Welcome. Yeah.
Thank you. Councillors, would anyone else like to speak to this report? I'll put this report to vote. All in favour, please raise your hands. It's carried. So we're going to go to 12.6 Governance Report, February 2024. Ms. Hill?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The monthly governance report is a standing report to Council in accordance with best practice and good governance principles and to ensure compliance with the requirements of the Local Government Act 2020, the Code of Conduct 2021 and the Councillor Support Policy 2020. In this month's governance report, Council is asked to consider a summary of recent governance activity, contracts entered into and works orders approved in accordance with the S5 Instrument of Subdelegation, Councillor declarations of representation by Members of Parliament, the updated Syndon Park Consultative Committee Terms of Reference, the Audit and Risk Committee minutes of the 24th of November 2023, the Risk Management Policy, the Kindergarten Central Registration and Enrolment Guideline, funding agreement with the State Government for the Old Geelong Road, Brooklyn, and the update on the Regional Assessment Service, which is contained in a confidential attachment. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Ms. Hill. Councillors, are there any questions for the Director? Do I have a mover of this report? Councillor Papalia?
I move the report as per shared screen.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder? Councillor David?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'd like to second the motion.
Thank you. Councillor Papalia, would you like to speak to this report?
No, thank you.
Councillor David, would you like to speak to this report? Councillors, would anyone else like to speak to this report? I put this report to vote. All in favour, please raise your hands. It's carried. We're going to go to 12.7, appointment to committees 2024. Ms. Hill?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The purpose of this report is for councillors to consider making appointments to committees for the remainder of the council term. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillors, do you have questions for the Director? Do I have a mover of this report? Oh, they don't have a name, so I can't see. Is it? It's a bit small. Can we make it a little bit bigger so we can see? Councillors, can everyone see clearly? Happy with the appointments? Do I have a mover? Councillor Papalia?
I move the recommendation as per shared screen.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder? Councillor David?
Yes, second the motion, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Would you like to speak to this report, Councillor Papalia?
No, thank you.
Councillor David, would you like to speak to this report?
No, Madam Mayor.
Would anyone else like to speak to this report? I'll put this report to vote. All in favour, please raise your hands. It's carried. I'm going to go Local Government Reforms 2024 consultation paper. Ms. Hill?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. In January 2024, the State Government released a consultation paper on the local government reforms for feedback. The purpose of the reforms are to support improved governance and integrity across the local government sector ahead of the elections in late 2024. The consultation paper provides an overview of the reforms which relate to strengthening council leadership, capability and councillor conduct, improve early intervention and dispute resolution, and strengthen oversight mechanisms. The detail of the consultation paper is at attachment 2. Submissions are being accepted until the 29th of February. The purpose of this report is for Council to consider endorsing a submission in relation to the reforms at attachment 1. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Councillors, are there any questions for the Director? Do I have a mover of this report? Councillor Papalia.
Sure, I move the officer recommendation as per shared screen.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Kerr.
I second the report as per the shared screen.
Thank you. Councillor Papalia, would you like to speak to this report?
No, only that we endorse the comments made and welcome the reforms. Thank you.
Councillor Kerr, would you like to speak to this report?
No, thank you, Madam Mayor.
Would anyone else like to speak to this report? I'll put this report to vote. All in favour, please raise your hands. It's carried. We're going to go to 12.9. I'll wait for Councillor Riley again. Council Plan Year 3, Quarter 2 Progress Report. Ms Hill, thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Brimbank Council adopted Together We Are Brimbank Council Plan 2021 to 2025 in October 21. Each year, after consulting with the community, Council creates an annual action plan to implement the strategic directions and objectives outlined in the Council Plan. Implementation of these actions is monitored and evaluated through quarterly reporting of actions, with achievements published at the end of the financial year in the Brimbank Council Annual Report. This year, 23-24, the Council Plan Action Plan contains 109 actions. This report shows progress made in Quarter 2 from October 1st to 31st of December 2023. Officers recommend that Council notes the state of actions as presented in the report. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Councillors, are there any questions for the Director? Councillor Nguyen.
Thank you. Ms. Hill, thank you for preparing with the team this report. Can you tell us more about the one item that was not progressed?
In 1 minute, I can. Let me just find that. So there hasn't been any action progressed so far on investigating and delivering a training program for volunteers to improve digital skills and enhance wellbeing for older adults. This is to commence in Quarter 3. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillors, anyone else? Do I have a move of this report? Councillor Nguyen.
Thank you. Happy to move the report.
Especially screen, yeah.
As per shared screen.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Kerr.
I second the report as per the shared screen.
Thank you. Councillor Nguyen, would you like to speak to this report? Councillor Kerr, would
No,
you like
thank
to speak?
you, Madam Mayor.
Any other councillors? Would anyone else like to speak to this report? If not, I put this report to vote. All in favour, please raise your hands. It's carried. We're going to go to 12.10, contract number 21/2925, provision of human resources information system, extension of contract. Ms Hill, thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The purpose of this report is for Council to consider the extension of contract 21-2925, Human Resource Information Systems, for a 2-year period from the initial 3-year period. This contract relates to the provision of human resource information system, which includes payroll, recruitment, onboarding, learning and performance. The contract was originally awarded under delegation in 2021 for an initial 3-year period with the option of an extension for a further 2 years. Officers recommend that Council consider extending the contract with Frontier Software and Pulse Software contract for a further 2-year period from the 28th of February 2026 based on agreed schedule of rates. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Councillors, are there any questions for the Director? Do I have a move of this report? Councillor Papalia.
I move the recommendation as per shared screen.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder? Councillor David.
Second, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Papalia, would you like to speak to this report?
No, thank you.
Councillor David, would you like to speak to this? Any other councillors? Would anyone like to speak to this report? If not, I put this report to vote. All in favour, please raise your hands. It's carried. We're going to go to 12.11, Draft Community Service and Infrastructure Planning Policy. Ms. Dumble, thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. This report requests that Council consider endorsing the draft Community Services and Infrastructure Planning Policy for a minimum 4-week community consultation. The purpose of the policy is to provide rationale as to how Council plans, provides and maintains community services infrastructure in ways that are both effective and equitable. Thank you.
Thank you, councillors. Are there any questions for the Director? Do I have a mover of this report? Councillor Takos.
I move the report as per shared screen. Thank you.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Nguyen.
I'd like to second.
Thank you. Councillor Takos, would you like to speak to this report?
No, thank you.
Councillor Nguyen, would you like to speak to this report? Any other councillors? Would anyone like to speak to this report? I put this report to vote. All in favour, please raise your hands. It's carried. 12.12, contract number 21/3049 PA 2306/0843, library collections, furniture, equipment and associated requirements. Ms. Dumble.
Thank you, Mayor. This report requests Council to consider the extension of a contract with Procurement Australia until June 30, 2025. The contract is a panel contract administered by Procurement Australia with a group of 52 councils. It is used primarily for the purchase of library books and other library collections and also library equipment. Thank you.
Thank you, councillors. Is there any questions for the Director? Do I have a move of this report? Councillor Nguyen.
I would like to move the motion as per shared screen.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Kerr.
I'll second the motion as per the shared screen.
Thank you. Councillor Nguyen, would you like to speak to this report or this motion?
I would just like to say the report's pretty straightforward. It's just to supply materials for libraries. So
Thank you.
thank you.
Councillor Kerr, would you like to speak to it?
No, thank you, Madam Mayor.
Any other councillors? Would anyone like to speak to this report? I put this report to vote. All in favour, please raise your hands. It's carried. We're going to go to item 14, notice of rescission. There are no notices of rescission. Item 15, urgent business. CEO, is there any urgent business for tonight?
Oh, there's no urgent business, Madam Mayor. Thank you.
Item 16, confidential businesses. There is one item of confidential business. May I have a mover of a motion to close the meeting in accordance with Section 66(2)(a) of the Local Government Act 2020 to members of the public for consideration of item 16.1, which has been designated confidential. Councillor Papalia.
I move a motion to, as per shared screen, to make the item confidential. Thanks.
Do I have a seconder? Councillor
I second
David.
the motion, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Papalia, would you like to speak? Councillor David. I put this motion to vote. All in favour, please raise your hands. It's carried. Thank you to everyone who is currently viewing the live stream of this meeting. This meeting will now be closed to members of the public. In accordance with Section 3(1) and 66(2)(a) of the Local Government Act 2020, the meeting be closed to members of the public for the remaining of the meeting for consideration of item 16, which is classified as confidential information in accordance with Section 3(1)(f) of the Local Government Act 2020 and is the last item of consideration at the meeting. This meeting is now closed to the members of the public at 9:12 and will not be reopened to the public at the conclusion of the confidential businesses. Thank you all for attending and for your interest in tonight's meeting. I instruct Channel 31 to stop live streaming this meeting.